It is Thursday, December 21st, and the Splash Zone is back in your life with my 4 favorite NBA player props for today's NBA betting slate. I got 4 player props that I really like. All 4 are of the plus money banger variety, which is great. Before I can give you today's picks, I got to do a quick recap from yesterday, which unfortunately was not one of our days. I gave out another 4 picks. I only got 1 of those 4 to cash. We end the day 1-3, down 2.25 units. It's the second day in a row where I targeted the right matchup. I just had the wrong player. 2 days ago, Dame went off. I went with Giannis. Yesterday, Jabari Smith Jr. went off. I went with Jalen Green. It's okay. It happens. We move on. Let's hope we can have another good day today. We had been on fire heading into yesterday. That brings our total results, including yesterday's loss. We are up a profit of 21.14 units with an ROI of 16.84%. Giving out 3 to 4 plays a day, being up over 20 units with an ROI over 15% is very good. I hate having bad days, but luckily we had enough sustained success to be able to withstand that. And let's make it back today. So if you're not already, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can start cashing when we get on a hot streak. And let's get into it. So play number 1. This is in the Pacers versus Grizzlies game. I'm taking Ja Morant over 30.5 points. This is at plus 120 odds at BetRivers. You can also get it at plus 110 at ESPN Bet if you're like me and you don't even bother using BetRivers. Now, I understand that if this might seem a little square, I don't look at social media in the morning. So if other people are on this play, I wouldn't be surprised. He's just got such a smash spot that I really do like backing him, even if it ends up being a little square. This is a situation where I would pump his point total up to 35 and 40 plus points. Just remember, if you do that, unit size down. The matchup and the play itself is just so juicy. Now, if you just look at raw stats, it might not seem like the Pacers are a juicy matchup for opposing point guards, right? They don't look like a team you'd want to target. As bad as they are on defense, it's not against point guards. But with that said, where the Pacers struggle is giving up points in the paint, right? Against point guards, they're middle of the pack in terms of points per game given up. Where the Pacers defense is really bad, like I said, is giving up points in the paint. They literally give up the most points in the paint in the entire NBA. Even though Ja Morant is a point guard, that's where he wants to do his damage. He wants to attack the basket. He has a really good floater game. Obviously, he's incredibly explosive if he can get to the rim. And that's where Ja Morant, even though, like I said, that he's a point guard, he wants to do his damage in the paint, and he wants to attack the basket. He's turned himself into a fine shooter, but really we all know that he wants to throw down nasty yams or that he wants to live in the mid-range kind of pull-up game. Floater. I meant to say floater. So he's only played 1 game this year, so not a great sample size. Admittedly, it's pretty minuscule. But in that game, in which the Grizzlies did win, a massive game winner from Ja, he posted a usage rate of 39.5%. Now, for context, Joel Embiid leads the NBA in usage rate of qualified players, meaning players that have played enough minutes to qualify. His is at 37%. Ja's above that at 39%. Luka Doncic has the second highest usage rate of qualified players. His is at 34.8%. Giannis is third at 32.2%. Ja's was 39.5. The Grizzlies have not been playing well this year, so I expect a lot of hero ball, and especially Ja just coming back in general. Upset that he missed the first 25 games of the year and watched the Grizzlies play horribly. I'm not surprised with that usage rate that he was able to score 34 points against a much better defense in the Pelicans. So the Grizzlies are at home against a really bad defense. I see this as a smash blow-up spot for Ja Morant, as I mentioned, for those reasons why. Again, I would suggest pumping him up to 35 and 40 plus. Again, just unit size down as you do that. But that is our first play, backing Ja Morant to get to over 30.5 points. Next up, we're actually sticking in the same game here, Pacers-Grizzlies, and I'm taking Tyrese Haliburton over 3.5 made three-pointers, plus 130 odds at DraftKings. So again, I'm sticking in the same game, just taking the point guard on the other side of the ball and Tyrese Haliburton, hopefully, to get us to 4 made threes. So the Grizzlies defense had a really rough start to the year. I mean, they had a rough start in general, but specifically their defense was horrible. Since then, they've actually turned themselves into a pretty good defense. It's not really their issue anymore. But one area on defense in which they still do struggle is guarding the three-point line. They're one of the worst defenses in the NBA, specifically at guarding the three-point line. They give up the fourth most made three-pointers in the NBA at 14.1, and they give up the second highest opponent three-point percentage as well at 39.3. And if you drill even deeper into that, one area beyond the three-point line in which they struggle is guarding specifically point guards. Props.cash lists the Grizzlies as literally the best matchup for point guards if you're targeting their three-pointer props. Literally the easiest matchup for opposing point guards and their three-pointer props. Now, Haliburton, looking at him, it's been a cold stretch of games since the in-season tournament. He hasn't made 4 or more three-pointers in the past 6 games. 5 of those games have come since the in-season tournament ended. It was only natural for them to struggle a little bit after that run. We also see the Lakers struggling a little bit as well. But I do think that this is a matchup where Haliburton can get it back going, especially from deep. Prior to this 5-6 game stretch, he was shooting double-digit attempts from deep pretty regularly. In the past 5 games, the most he's attempted is 9, and he's done that twice. Prior to that, he had gone over 10 in 3 of the past 4 games. Now, he has made 3 three-pointers a couple times in this 6-game stretch that he's missed, so he's right around there, just got to make 1 more. Obviously, going from 3 to 4 is still a lot. That's like a 25% difference. So I'm not going to say that it's obvious and easy, but for plus 130 odds and for such a good matchup, I think that the value is there. Hopefully, Haliburton can come through for us. The double point guard play in the Pacers-Grizzlies game, would love to go 2-0 there. Next up in the Wizards versus Blazers game, I'm taking Deandre Ayton over 15.5 points plus 105 odds at DraftKings. So Ayton, I've actually had a lot of luck with Deandre Ayton. I backed him on Tuesday. He came through for us. And this will actually be the 3rd time that I will be backing DeAndre Ayton. And he's cashed both of the first 2 times for us. So again, literally on Tuesday, he came through for us. And I love him once again because his matchup against the Wizards. I mentioned earlier that the Pacers give up the most points in the paint in the NBA. Guess who's number 2? That would be your Washington Wizards. Guess who gives up the most points per game in the NBA, specifically to centers? That would be your Washington Wizards. They allow 28.23 points per game to centers. The next closest team is down to 25.53. So it's a pretty massive gap between the Wizards and the team that gives up the second most points to centers. You could make the argument, I would. In some ways, the Wizards are even a bigger joke on defense than the Pacers are. DeAndre Ayton should be able to punish them. Obviously, he is someone that wants to do his damage in the paint because he doesn't have any type of outside game. On the year, Ayton has gone over 15.5 points in 8 of 22 games, but that's kind of bookended by cold stretches. He missed it in the first 4 or 5 games of the year. Heading into Tuesday's game, he had missed it in his past 5. You take out that, and he's hitting it at a much better clip in the middle, the nuts and bolts of the season. And as I mentioned, he did do it last game when we targeted him. I'm confident that he's going to come through for us again, hopefully, as we target him for the second straight game that the Blazers are actually playing. And then that's our 3rd pick. Last up, 4th and final pick of the slate. In the Jazz versus Pistons game, Cade Cunningham over 7.5 assists plus 105 odds at DraftKings. So for the last play of the evening, I'm going with our first assist prop of the evening, backing, admittedly, someone on the worst team in the NBA in the Pistons, and Cade Cunningham for the Pistons. But I do think he's going to rack up a bunch of assists. I'm not going to pretend that it's been anything other than a joke of a season for the Pistons. At least Cade is playing well. And the reality is, you could make the argument that Monty Williams is the head coach of the Pistons, that he is coaching to get fired. I have no idea what he's doing with his rotations. He's making inexplicable decisions. It's like he literally wants to get fired. Even with that, this is like a situation like Haliburton, where I'm kind of fading recent results and I'm backing Cade to come through for us. Like Tyrese Haliburton, Cade hasn't gone over this number in 6 straight games. Granted, he did hit 7 3 times in that stretch. So again, hovering right around that number. And in that 6-game stretch, he also did play some pretty tough defenses. He played the Sixers twice and the Magic as well. The reason why I like backing Cade today is because the matchup against the Jazz is about as juicy as it gets. Not only are the Jazz in general a horrible defense, not only do they already allow a ton of assists to point guards, which I will get into, but they're also traveling on the second night of a back-to-back, and they're 1-4 in situations like that. The second night of back-to-backs, they're 1-4. And as I mentioned, their defense is terrible, and their defense is specifically terrible at allowing assists to point guards. This is another situation where Props Talk Cash lists this as literally the best matchup in the NBA. If you're targeting point guard assist props, the Jazz would be the number one defense that you want to target. Overall, the Jazz allow 10.4 assists per game to the opposing point guard. That's the most in the NBA, and no team is allowing even over 10 assists. So they're the only team allowing double-digit assists to point guards. 5 of the last 6 point guards against the Jazz have gone over their assist prop over-under. That includes 11 from Spencer Dinwiddie on an over-under of 6.5. That includes 10 from Scoot Henderson on an over-under of 5.5. And that includes 8 from Jalen Brunson on an over-under also of 5.5. So despite the Pistons being a joke, I do like Cade to have a game today, getting us to 8 or more assists. And that's all we got. 4 plays for you guys to lock in, 4+ money bangers. If we can get any combination of 2 to cash, we will be profitable. But let's hope that we can go 4-0. And that's it. So I appreciate everybody for watching. And make sure to like the video, comment, let me know your thoughts, and then of course subscribe, and have a good one.